Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, on this day of Mars, the waning crescent moon, Gemini season, Celtic tree month of Hawthorn, deer season, and the Pluto retrograde. In today's planetary astrology, we have that sun in Gemini, mutable air representing communication. The moon is fourth quarter Taurus, fixed earth representing industriousness. Mercury is in Gemini, mutable air representing insight. Venus is in Gemini, mutable air representing the spendthrift. Mars is in Aries, cardinal fire representing initiative. Jupiter is in Gemini, mutable air representing questing. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable air representing nostalgia. Uranus is in Taurus, fixed earth, representing renovation. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, representing imagination. Pluto is retrograding Aquarius, which is fixed air, and we need to examine intentions and remember the mantra of reflect, heal, and evolve. So for the moon phase, it is still the waxing crescent, which means it's still time to rest, it's still time to reflect, it's still time to purge anything that isn't needed. And remember for the Taurus moon to do be grounded, do be realistic, and do reject distractions. Don't get involved in conversion attempts of any kind. Try to avoid anything that would require fast reactions or improvisation if you possibly can. Do yourself a favor and spare yourself the headache. So, on this day of Mars, you may be feeling a conflict between the energies of the moon and the energies of the sun and Mars today. Gemini and Aries like to boldly press forward, even if it's somewhat haphazard, because Gemini does have la di da di da squirrel syndrome. So that does, add for a few zigs to the zag of those two, but they do rub along together pretty well. But then you have Taurus that likes a measured pace, an actual path and a defined destination. So if you are feeling that conflict, you are not going crazy. So don't beat yourself up about that, and try to allow for a little bit of a looser approach. You can still have your defined path if that's what you're needing to do. You can still have a defined goal. Just don't expect high efficiency today, and understand there could be some drifting this way or that way. But if you go with those energies and you work with them instead of against them, it'll be easier to make progress towards your goals today. You may not fully realize them, but as long as you are making progress, that's better than getting completely derailed or getting put into a standing still. And if you do find yourself in a standstill, that's going to make those conflicted energies feel a lot worse. So it's better to have the irritation of just kind of, okay, we're lurching forward, as we're going this way and that way because of the sun and Mars, wanting to do other stuff. But if you just ride that, you'll be better off than if you're just in the space of conflict. So next up, the tarot of the day, we have Papa Legba, which you have any familiarity with voodoo or hoodoo. He will be a familiar figure to you. But for this tarot, he is representing the Strength card. So when we think about strength, are we exhibiting strength when the occasion calls for it, or when that time comes, do we try to evade it? Do we try to get out of it? Do we try to find someone else to be strong instead of us displaying that strength? And if we are finding ourselves evading that, we may be evading one of the responsibilities that comes with being an adult to, accept that sometimes challenging and unpleasant things come our way, and it's up to us to deal with it accordingly. It isn't up, we shouldn't be trying to push that duty off onto someone else. We shouldn't be trying to ignore it out of existence. We shouldn't expect other people to deal with the problem for us. We should be part of the effort to proactively solve something. And for too long, we've treated everything as if it's optional. We have all but killed the idea of duty, and so now we're having to actually make the case for why duty should exist to begin with, before we can start discussing what should our duties actually be, and when there are just some things that come our way, and we just need to rise to the occasion, like it or not. And I don't think that people necessarily appreciate that that's where we are in our civilization, that they don't realize that you're having to make the case for the concept itself. And the fact that so many people don't is the reason why they fail to be persuasive to people who view the world quite differently. So that's just a little something to keep in mind. Now, today's Celtic triad, there are three things that make plenty in a land: planting trees, tilling the soil, and carding and spinning. So planting trees, fruit, nut, shade, whether you're planting the trees for utility or decoration, trees are a net good. And of course, because trees are very good at providing edibles, that is, of course, also helping sustain human life, which that is very important. Telling the soil, nothing good is going to happen unless you have a robust agriculture. People starve, you have nothing. Expect the very worst manifestations of the human species when you see starvation going on. So you have to have people who do till that soil. And then carding and spinning. This refers to the process of taking the wool from sheep or alpaca, and processing them, with the carding and then the spinning, making the wool for clothing and textiles. Most of us are not in the business of doing that anymore. But it wasn't so many generations ago when that would not have been, a pretty big part of, the average woman's daily life, particularly for anyone who perhaps was in England, where keeping sheep is a lot more common than what it is here. It was part of her household responsibilities. It's one of the reasons why children, particularly girls, were taught at a very early age to do these things, because it contributed to the family literally having clothes and also having the ability to have something that they can trade for other things that they might need. So if we look at this a little bit more metaphorically, it's all about resource management and working at that which we have available to us. Not all of us have our dream jobs. A lot of us do not. And that's just a reality. But there's something to be said for hard work and being conscientious in any task that we undertake, and acknowledging that, perhaps, this isn't what we want to be doing right now, but it's a chapter in life, and get through it. And then perhaps you can move on to better things as things go along. But it is about looking at what you have available, being productive, making the most of it, trading accordingly, and thereby sustaining life and actually having that plenty, learning how to build abundance up with your own hands. Important stuff, especially these days. So today's magical intention has to do with marriage. The color is maroon. The plant is the lady's mantle. The animal is the phoenix, which represents happy marriage. It is the transformation from the state of singlehood into a union, going from two people to essentially one person. Actually, because hopefully in a marriage you actually are that close. It should be as if you are one. Uh, for most of us, that is aspirational goals, but it is and of course this doesn't mean you give up your individuality, which is how people try to spend this thing, and I'm sick of having that argument, because that's not what it means. What it means is that you are facing life together as a team, and you're not allowing the outside world to see any fractures in your relationship. Whatever things you have to sort out, that's between the two of you, because as far as the rest of the world is concerned, as far as your children are concerned, so they don't manipulate the hell out of you, you are that united front. You are as one. That's what it means. So put away the smelling salts. And then the crystal is the rhododendronite. So do you nurture your marriage? Because a good marriage, happy marriage, a functional marriage even, that doesn't happen by accident. It's making choices every single day. It's making the choice to work in cooperation with your partner and they with you, instead of just, you essentially living parallel but separate lives. Now, some people do that and they say, oh, it's fine. Well, I'd like to see the divorce rate on those people who have that mindset specifically, because it does seem like when you have this mindset of I'm going to be separate from you, I'll be next to you, but I'm still very separate from you. And I'm not, it does tell me that you're not as invested in the relationship as what you probably need to be, probably not on either side. And that lays the stage for future heartache, and while I am a huge supporter of marriage, I think marriage is very good. I think for the vast majority of people, they are better off being married. I think we do need to look at some of the prerequisites to make that particular relationship a success, because again, it doesn't just happen, and it's something you're going to have to work on. And not everyone chooses to do that kind of work. Some people will not make that sacrifice for each other, and it kind of makes me wonder, why is that person in your life to begin with, let alone in such an intimate area? So scary thoughts to think. Moving on. For today's pagan practice, this is a good opportunity to honor a sovereignty deity. Lately, I've been feeling a pull on Tuesdays to focus specifically on this concept of sovereignty. So expect to see this come up again. This is also a good day to work on your solar plexus chakra, learn something new about your Mars sign, make a decision you've been putting off, and read a passage from The Art of War. Now, for today's journal prompt, kingship, sovereignty, the right to rule are themes during June as we approach the annual struggle between the Oak King and the Holly King. Do you exercise self sovereignty? There you go. You knew I was going to turn it back on you, because that's a lot. So much of our spiritual work, it is about, metaphorically looking in the mirror and saying, okay, what am I actually doing? Am I actually being proactive in life? Am I in charge of my life? Do I own my own soul? And do I make decisions for myself, or am I just kind of going along to getting along and not really undertaking the proper effort and responsibility of being an adult human? So lots to think about today. Even for Tuesday, this feels like it kind of hit us all pretty rough. It's never my intention to do that. It's just sometimes that just seems to be the way things work out. So make of it what you will, take with it what you can. Let me know what you thought about all this in the comment section below. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.